Hello everyone. Today I wanted to show you a little setup that I have in a classic Traveler's Company Traveler's Notebook. This is a narrow or original size Traveler's Notebook, and this is the notebook that for me started it all. This is my very first Traveler's Notebook that I got of any style and brand, and I really liked it, but I found it to be a little bit limiting in the number of things I could put in it, and I kept wanting to put more and more stuff in it. I mean, I'm not one that super chunks up their notebooks, but I did want a little more flexibility than one string allowed, even though I know you can jump band and put more in there, but the width of this notebook doesn't allow you to put too many different notebooks in it before they start to stick out. And even the way I have it now, it sticks out a little, but you'll see why that is when I show you what's inside here. This is the blue color, and this is essentially why I chose the Chic Sparrow Hummingbird as my first other brand of TN, because it looked very similar to this and I was just in love with this color. So I'll go ahead and show you what I have in here. And I have to say, I am not much of a fan of the back closure. I feel like it's kind of clumsy or clunky when you try to get it on and off of the notebook. I really do like the spine closure better. But all that said, I'll probably never get rid of this notebook just because it was my first, and I feel like it has a special place in my heart as being my first notebook. Okay, so I have a little, I don't know what you call this, a pouch from, oh, what is the brand name? I believe it is in the pocket here, so I'll take a look. So it's ro-biki, R-O-B-I-K-I, note cover, canvas cover. That's what this is called. So it has a little zipper pocket here that is only this deep. There. And I'll put this back in there. This little jump band is provided in case you want to attach two of these together in a notebook, or just carry them separately. I think that's really what they intend for this to be, is a separate carry for your items. So I'll just put that back in the zipper pocket. And then in here I have some watercolor brushes, or water brushes, from Caran d'Ache, and I will put a link to these below, and I'll show you why I have these in here. These are a pretty recent addition for me, and I really like them. They sort of have unique tips. There's some fairly standard ones, like this is the large standard tip. I'll put these back as we go. This is the small standard tip. Or did I have those backwards? Was that the small? Nope. That was the large. I was right. And then this is the small standard tip. And this is part of a little set that also gives you this very interesting marker tip. So the marker wets just like a water brush, and you can essentially write with watercolor kind of like you'd write with a marker. It's kind of cool. You can also fuzz out lines, wet harsh lines in watercolor and that sort of thing with this, and it's actually pretty useful. So there's a little thing to push here to get water to flow into the front, and you just depress that, which I'm not going to do now because I don't want to get water everywhere. And it has a very interesting sort of pump feature. So you stick the end, so you take this part off, and then you stick it in a cup of water or whatever, and then you just pull it. And then it actually fills water all the way up into the end here. Okay, so those are kind of neat if you're looking for a new kind of water brush or a different kind of water brush. So this has this one pocket here. It has a little single pen pocket here. And then on the back it has another compartment for pens or whatever. I was also thinking of putting some liquid ink brushes back here, because I can also use the water markers, or the water brushes, to smooth out the ink in those, but it just chunked it up too much for this notebook, so I left them out. But now I'll show you why I have these water brushes in here. Because in this little card folio, when I didn't label it it looks like. I have all of these little paper, so they're called watercolors, but they're actually dye-based, and they're just sheets with the dye-based watercolor in the top of the paper here. And you can see I have put the swatches here, and the swatches often look quite different than the paper itself. And this is by Peerless. I think they were recently purchased by another group of people. They had been owned for many, many years by the same people, and now they have a new owner, but it seems like they're just continuing on like the old owner was. So these are kind of neat, and they've been around supposedly for a really long time. You can, and these are actually cut out of a larger sheet. So the sheets that I got, so I got a set of, I can't remember what the set name is, but it's a variety of different colors. And the sheets themselves are about this big, in a big rectangle, and they come in a little flip book type style. And then I cut these squares out to fit inside these little business card holders. And this is still a little bit of a work in progress, because my initial thought was, well, I would just pull these out just a little and use the, well, that's probably, so I pull these out just a little, and then I would use the brush, wet that part there, and then put it on paper and, you know, paint and everything. But then it takes a little while for that to dry. So when I close it, it's going to go up against the other one, and I can't always push it back in because it'll be wet. So I think what I need to do is put little sheets of plastic or parchment paper or something in between as a divider, so that once after I've used a color, I can just close it back up and any excess will get on that paper in between. So I do have samples for each and every one here. It's very interesting. Like this one looks green here on the paper, but it's actually a yellow. And there's some other colors that are very much like that. Well, like heliotrope. I mean, this almost looks like a dusty piece of paper, but it looks like that when you swatch it. And I know a lot of people have made little traveler's notebooks, swatches of these, you know, in some sort of folder version, but this is how I've set it up, but obviously it's not perfect and it's still a work in progress. Okay. And this again shows another use for this wonderful card holder. These are super useful in a variety of ways. This is just an inventory of the colors I have. I had originally written this in another notebook and then just tucked it away in here. And then this is actually a notebook from the same company that made this little zipper pouch. And it's made essentially to be its own little TN, essentially, where you slip the notebook in this little slip pocket here, and then you carry it by itself. But when I put them in this traveler's notebook, it actually was quite perfect. This is a little narrower than the standard size, so it doesn't really add too much extra bulk, and it doesn't go all the way down to the spine. And then this is going to be what I'm going to use as my little sketchbook for all of these dye-based watercolors. They're not as good, in my opinion, as regular watercolor, but they're really great for having such a paper-thin option. I think that now, given so many of the pocket watercolor palette options for regular watercolor, this becomes a little outdated. But again, it's fun to use. The colors are really vibrant because they are dye-based, which is a little different than watercolor, and they're harder to re-wet if you can re-wet them at all. So they're not as versatile in that way, but they'd be really good for illustration or something like that where you'd want really vivid colors. Okay, so that's it on this one, and that's it for today. I'm just going to close that back up. Again, see, it's a little awkward with the closure attached in the back. But this is a really great use for this now, and I hope to actually get some use out of it in the near future. All right, thanks for joining me. Feel free to like and or subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.